Many prominent Appalachians recognized the need for a national park that protected the Smoky Mountains. While there were many people who worked to further bring about that change that would allow for a new national park, none would be as culturally influential as the three women who forever changed the course of history. Ann Davis, Laura Thornburgh, and the Walker sisters were crucial to creating and building the Great Smoky Mountains National Park into what it is today. Even though they held different perspectives from one another, they influenced the national park in ways that others couldn't. First up on our list is Ann Davis. Ann May Davis is known to many people as, quote, the mother of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. While this moniker is definitely appropriate, it fails to describe how vital she was to the creation of the national park and to the lengths she went to fight for it. Originally born in Louisville, Kentucky, Davis moved to Knoxville in 1915 with her husband. She spent many hours enjoying the natural beauty that the Smoky Mountains had to offer. Davis and her husband were avid travelers, and they had visited the newly consecrated Yellowstone National Park a few years later after they moved to Knoxville. The Davis couple was stunned by not only the pure beauty of Yellowstone, but the small business economy it supported. They wanted to recreate this back east in the Smokies. Once they returned to Knoxville, Ann began raising furious support for a national park in the Smoky Mountains. This led to the formation of the Great Smoky Mountains Conservation Association, which was founded by the Davises and would go on to be the driving force behind the new national park. While the park had widespread support locally in Knoxville, state legislatures allowed the idea to die. Rather than give up, Ann Davis did what any American would do. She took matters into her own hands. In 1924, Davis ran for a seat on the Tennessee General Assembly and was elected as the third woman ever to the Tennessee House. The main issue with the National Park for the Smoky Mountains was the lack of public land to build a park on. So the state of Tennessee would have to find a way to purchase the private lands for the park. Ann Davis did exactly that. As the funding bill looked to be dead in the Tennessee House because of skeptical Middle and Western Tennesseans, Ann negotiated with Knoxville to allow the funding to go through. She secured a plan for Knoxville to help pay for the purchase of private land, which was the stepping stone the national park needed. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park would go on to be created due to her distinct actions. She only served one term in the House and never ran for another public office again. This is the story of a true American. Ann had a vision, joined the democratic process to achieve it, and then moved on without getting greedy. I wish we still had honorable political activists like Ann Davis. After her husband died in 1931, Ann moved to Gatlinburg to experience the mountains she so loved. She continued to be a champion for change as an officer of the League of Women Voters and even built the first public library in Gatlinburg. Ann May Davis was not only the mother of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, she was the spirit behind it. She brought enthusiasm and attention to the issue and then followed through with her vision by acting on it. That's a life well lived. Next on our list is Laura Thornburgh. Born in 1885, Laura Thornburgh lived in Knoxville, went to the University of Tennessee, and quickly became a journalist for the Knoxville News Sentinel. After graduate school in New York, she returned to Knoxville to teach and write. Laura should be known for her expertise when it comes to the Smoky Mountains. She's responsible for promoting the national park in a way that energized potential visitors to enjoy what the park has to offer. In 1937, her The Great Smoky Mountains was published. The history and guidebook would go on to sell out immediately as readers were hypnotized by the thought of a trip to the Smoky Mountains. The popular claim was that her book answered nearly every question that could have possibly been asked about the national park. She touched on trails, camping, short trips, long trips, animals, plants, mountain people, Cherokee history, and any other topic you could think of. What made Laura so special was her perspective of nature. Her unique perspective of nature and the Smoky Mountains had readers begging to make the trek up to the mountains. While writing was one of her many talents, she also led tours and sold land to further promote the national park. Some would try to compare her to Ann Davis, but the truth is that she couldn't have been more different. Davis chose to play the man's game and join politics to accomplish her vision, but Laura wanted to rebel in another way. She wanted to forge her own path, and a path no one else had attempted before. The path she chose was her distinct perspective on the national park. She chose to believe that these natural lands counteracted all the corruption and violence that had festered in society. This belief lives on today in many avid supporters of public lands. Her promotion of the national park had little to do with economic and tourist benefits. She simply wanted the natural beauty and wonder of the Smoky Mountains to live on forever, enshrined as sacred to the human species. She created a distinct dichotomy between blue-collar lumber workers and the work of the mountain people. While she belittled the lumber worker, a sentiment that could have been better explained through corporate defamation, she praised the work of mountain people as pure. Either way, she was entering into a territory that no woman had ever ventured into before. Laura would go on to continue to infuse cultural and sometimes religious imagery into the Smoky Mountains. She compared Europe's great cathedrals to the Smoky Mountains' natural mountains. The Smokies were her religion, and she drove park popularity through these comparisons. As much as she respected the Smokies and the people that lived there, she fell short when she sometimes portrayed the people who lived there as uneducated and backward. She lived during a time in which the American middle class began to grow and belittle those who stayed in their previous social class. Laura fell victim to this popular sentiment many times, but she did lay out the issue when it came to evicting people from their ancestral land to create a national park. While Laura would go on to try to remedy some of the negative statements she made about the mountain people she claimed to adore, her goal was simply to create a national park. That's what she cared about most. Laura's legacy will be one of extreme passion for a national park that humans can protect and preserve forever. She was crucial in bringing the public along with Ann Davis's actions to create a park. She will forever be known as someone who relentlessly gave her talents to the Smoky Mountains. Number 3 and last on our list are the Walker sisters. The Walker family lived on a farm in Little Greenbrier Cove. John and Margaret Walker would have 11 children. The 4 boys and 1 girl would eventually leave the farm and marry. The other 6 sisters would become known as the Walker sisters. The Walker sisters should be known for their love of their family land and appreciation of the Smoky Mountains. During the eviction of families from the incoming national park, the Walker sisters refused to leave. They didn't want to leave their home for a park to come in and demolish it. So they negotiated a deal that allowed them to live out their days on their land until they passed. Of course, this came with strict rules, including no more cutting down trees for heat, and the need for approval to move any dirt or even grow their own food. The government wanted to rid the national park of any human footprint whatsoever. They wanted the land to revert back to its natural grandeur over time. The Walker sisters were a small thorn in that plan. The sisters thought that living off the land and in harmony with the land was part of its natural beauty, so they fought to continue to do so. This clash of theories never came to a head because the Walker sisters became such a popular tourist attraction. They proved that there was a way to protect the land while still living off of it. Most of the time they spent living out their lives was spent living how they had since they were born. They continued to enjoy prototypical farm life in the Smoky Mountains. Unintentionally, however, their life on the farm would become a tourist attraction for many visitors to the park. People would visit constantly, and the park even put up a visitor's welcome sign in their yard to further the tourist adventures. Eventually, the Walker sisters passed one by one, and the few who were left could not handle all the visitors they had coming by. By 1966, the last Walker sister passed, but their legacies live on today. They are responsible for bringing real home life in the Smokies to the national park. Even though they simply lived their lives, the Walker sisters started a movement that we still see today, as the old ways of farming and living are being protected and just as sacred as the land it started on. Sometimes, when women get involved with massive movements, their influences can be eroded due to the time period. Other times, it's eroded because they don't look for the attention that their male counterparts do. Either way, these women of the Smokies each paved their own way to Smoky Mountain legend. Without them, the park might have not ever been established, or at least been as popular as it was. We can say with certainty that their efforts made the Great Smoky Mountains National Park into the most visited national park in the country.